Excerpts from the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, the classical ancient Hindu text, as translated by Jack Hawley. Part 1. Knowing the True Self and Selfless Action. Chapter 2. Sankhya Yoga, the Path of Knowledge. Krishna said, Arjuna, the cessation of your present pain and sorrow will depend on how well you overcome your ignorance of the true self that lies within you. As a person sheds out a worn-out garment, the dweller within the body casts aside its time-worn human frame and dons a new one. True reality, the unchanging, non-temporary. Real, as used in spirituality, means that which is eternal, never changing, indestructible. This is the very definition of reality. That which is real never ceases to be. Anything that is impermanent, even if it lasts a very long time and seems durable, eventually changes, and thus it does not have true reality. The Atma, real, unmanifested. Every creature, rock, blade of grass, human being, element, or component of any kind changes. Only the Atma never changes. Because it's never modified, it is termed immutable. Because it is invisible, has no form, and cannot be heard, smelled, or touched, it is termed unmanifested. The Atma is like the primal life waves. The Atma, which is existence itself, is awareness, pure consciousness. Living through the Tao, the way, or Dharma, leads to real achievement. This living selflessly, the mental evenness of non-desiring, is what is meant by yoga, union with God. The worried mind tends to veer from the only real goal, realizing the Atma, uniting with divinity, the true self within. The ideal, Arjuna, is to be intensely active and at the same time have no selfish motives, no thoughts of personal gain or loss. Duty, uncontaminated by desire, leads to inner peacefulness and increased effectiveness, economy of energy. This is the secret art of living a life of real achievement. To work without desire may seem impossible, but the way to do it is to substitute thoughts of desire for thoughts of divinity. Sacrifice, a burning point of fire. Do your work in this world with your heart fixed on the divine instead of on outcomes. Do not worry about results. Be even-tempered in success or failure. This mental evenness is what is meant by yoga, union with God. Indeed, equanimity is yoga. It is all Brahman acting and manipulating Brahman. It is all one grand process, one grand consciousness. Shedding karmic consequence, the laws of compensation, natural psychological law, and the gunas. Detachment means a consciousness unified with Brahman, the Godhead, divinity, true yogihood. When you are endowed with this basic detachment from attractions and repulsions, the ever-pulling fruits of one's actions, you shed the karmic consequences of your actions, both your good deeds and your bad deeds, casting aside the inevitable effects of your actions. Never lose sight of the overriding goal, which is to free yourself from bondage during this lifetime, to shed attachments to worldly things, detach yourself from ego, and truly release yourself from the wheel of birth and death. When you do this, you actually become one with God. A yogi is a truly wise person whose consciousness is unified with Brahman, the Godhead. True yogis are detached. They are not at all concerned with the fruits of their actions, and thus have left all anxiety behind. Detachment is the means to convert misery-laden karma, here indicating the entangling consequences of one's acts, into misery-free living. Detachment is the means for rising above worldly activities and getting to a state beyond the worldly. Note, this is describing the very process, or at least the aftermath or outward erudition of the process, of becoming one with the Tao, with God, with the optimal, natural unfurlment of your particular expression or pathway of expression of the universe or Brahman. Omnipresent gurus are beyond the laws of compensation because their intent is solely focused on divinity. Their intentions are not caught or clipped on the barbs of worldly desire or the worldly material senses. Description of the illumined ones, completely detached from the unreal, the worldly, and the external, as unperturbed by sorrow and adversity as they are by pleasure. The person who is detached, desireless, who neither rejoices nor gets depressed when faced with good fortune or bad, that person is poised in wisdom above worldly turmoil and is therefore an illumined one. An illumined one is called sthita prajna, literally one who is established in wisdom. Unruly senses drag the mind downward. Even those minds that know the path can be dragged away from it by the unruly senses. Much of one's spiritual discipline must therefore focus on taming wayward senses and being ever vigilant against the treacherousness of the senses. The downward spiral to one's ruin, brooding on worldly attractions and veering from achieving union with God. The downward spiral to one's ruin consists of the following process. Brooding on, or merely thinking about, worldly attractions develops attachments to them. From attachments to sense objects comes selfish desires. Thwarted desires cause anger to erupt. This causes confusion of the mind and makes one forget the lessons of experience. Forgetting lessons of experience cloud the reason, which results in loss of discrimination between truth and non-truth, real and not real. Finally, losing the faculty of discrimination makes one veer from life's only purpose, achieving union with the divine, the divinity within. Then, unfortunately, one's life itself is wasted. But when you can move about in a world that surrounds you with sense attractions and yet be free of either attachment or aversion to them, tranquility comes and sits in your heart. The roving mind that attaches to the objects of the senses loses its discrimination and is adrift, a ship without a rudder. Even a small wind blows it off its safe charted course.